that the members of the legislature all come from different constituencies. That is, the legislative seats have been spread across the length and breadth of the federation. So all of them come from different constituencies. What then is electoral constituency? What are the factors that determines the division of a country into constituencies? Let's take a look at our lesson objectives. By the end of this lesson, the students should be able to define the phrase electoral constituency, identify the factors influencing the delimitation of constituencies, also discuss the types of constituencies, highlight the problems affecting the delimitation of constituencies, and again explain electoral malpractice, its causes, and the various consequences of electoral malpractice. Now let's begin by looking at the meaning of electoral constituency. What is electoral constituency? Electoral constituency can be defined as the area where members of the legislative are voted into political offices. That is, those places where the members of legislature come from are regarded as electoral constituency. Again, the country is usually splitted or divided into constituencies, and the division of country into constituency is usually referred to as delimitation. So when a country is divided into different constituency, that is called what? Delimitation. And constituency and the division of country into constituencies usually give room to ensuring that the legislative seats are spread across the length and breadth of the country, so that there will be equitable distribution of parliamentary seats. What are the factors influencing the delimitation of constituencies? What are the factors? There are so many factors that influence the delimitation of constituencies. One, for administrative convenience. The need to consider convenience has often led to merging of some local areas that are near to one another to form a constituency. And again, population. A high density area may press for a separate constituency, even when the area is not that large. Again, we have minority interest. Some areas have been carved out as a constituency, not for their large areas or population, but most importantly, to satisfy the interests of minorities. Again, geographical factor. This relates to the topographical or the topography of the area. A constituency area must be considered in relation to its accessibility. And another factor is historical and cultural background. Of course, people with the same historical background and of course culture should be grouped together. And another factor is number of seats available. The number of seats available within the legislature and to be allocated to each constituency can influence delimitation. Now let's look at the types of constituencies we have. What are the various types of constituencies we have? Types of constituency. There are basically two types of constituencies. One, we have single member constituency or direct system. And two, we have multi-member constituencies. So these are the two types of constituencies we have. Let's look at the single member constituency. The single member constituency is that type of constituency where voters vote only one member into the legislature. That is, only one member is voted from a constituency. Again, the system is done in every election. For instance, in Nigeria, we operate the single member constituency where just a member is voted from each of the constituencies. You can see the picture showing the House of Senate and the districts where these members are from. Only one legislature, only one senator comes from each district. So one is elected from every constituency. Now let's look at the advantages or merits of single member constituency. Among the various advantages of single member constituency include: one, close touch with the constituency. This system enables the elected member to keep in close touch with his constituency. Again, it is simple and economical. This system is simple and economical, especially for the candidates. Also, it is more democratic in the sense that the poor candidate is not in any disadvantage as he would have been if the constituency was a large one. Also, it encourages local talents. This system is more likely to encourage local talent than the larger or multi-member constituency. This is because men of moderation will feel more confidence where the constituency is small and their local influence counts. Again, it gives room for stable majority. The system tends to provide a more stable majority in a legislature than the multi-member system. Also, another advantage is active interest in political process. This system encourages people in the community to take active interest in the political process. And let's look at some of the demerits. There are some disadvantages of this system. One is representation of local interest. It leads to the choice of men who regard themselves as representatives of local interests rather than of the country as a whole. Another is gerrymandering. this system increases powerfully the temptation of legislative majorities to gerrymander the state, that is to construct the electoral district in such a way as to give the majority party more representatives than its voting strengths. So another disadvantage is distortion of the system. This could result in the election of the candidate through plurality system. That is, it can distort the system. Again, the minorities may not be adequately represented in the legislature. So the system may not adequately represent the minority in the legislature. Let's look at multi-member constituency. What is multi-member constituency and what is it all about? The multi-member constituency is one in which the voters could vote two or more persons in an election. They vote in order of their preference. Two or more persons can be elected, and a voter is entitled to two or more votes. Now, there are problems affecting the limitations of constituencies. What are these problems? Among the various problems affecting the limitations of constituencies include inaccurate population census. Most of the census conducted in some countries like Nigeria have not been reliable and can negatively affect constituency delimitation. Again, gerrymandering. The leaders may construct the electoral district in such a way as to give the majority party more representations in the parliament. We have ethnicity factor. Every ethnic group might want to have its own constituency, irrespective of the population or size. We have grouping together of different interests. Problem may also come up when trying to group the majority tribes with minority tribes. The minority group may not cherish such idea. We have that of skilled manpower. This means that skilled manpower is usually insufficient. They are not there to actually carry out the delimitation of constituencies. Let's look at some feedback questions. Feedback questions. Define the phrase electoral constituency. Identify the factors influencing the delimitation of constituencies. Discuss the types of constituencies and highlight the problems affecting the limitations of constituencies. Ensure you answer these questions in your notes, and if you don't understand these questions, you can watch the video over again, then attempt these questions. Now that you have answered these questions, let's proceed by looking at electoral malpractice. What is electoral malpractice? Malpractice as a word means wrong behavior, bad, improper, condemnable behavior. So, electoral malpractice means misconducts in elections. It means when elections are wrongly conducted or some persons cheat in the process of election, just the way we have examination malpractice when students cheat. So also when candidates cheat during elections, that is electoral malpractice. And this happens even during the process of election, before it, and even after the election period. so as to twist the process towards the outcome of the election, so as to win the election and have advantage over other candidates. Electoral malpractice is a cankerworm that has eaten deep into the fabrics of Nigeria electoral system. And some influential politicians, the officials, and even security agents down to electorate participate or take part in this menace. Some, it could be through vote buying. They give electorates money to buy over their votes. And in other cases, through thuggery, use of thugs to intimidate voters, and snatching of electoral buses and materials. What are the various causes of this menace called electoral malpractice? Causes of electoral malpractice. There are so many causes. You can see this picture of poor children. A man whose children look like this will collect any amount just to vote. One of the causes is poverty. A man that is poor will do anything to feed his children. The rate of poverty in Nigeria is so high that politicians take advantage of that to hijack this ugly situation so as to satisfy their selfish ends. They give money out to people so as to buy over their votes. Another is illiteracy. The ability of most Nigerians to read and write had denied them the opportunity of knowing what to do and what not to do. So, we also have ethnic influence. Most of the ethnic groups in the country would want to engage in one form of electoral malpractice or the other in order to have their people in the corridors of power. The reason is because most of them want to be relevant in the political dispensation of the country. We have extravagant spending. Spending extravagantly and unnecessarily by politicians is one of the causes of electoral malpractice in Nigeria. And again, some politicians are over-ambitious. They have over-ambition and they are desperate. And this desperation would want them to be in political office at all costs. They want to be in political office at all costs. Many of them are not popular in their constituency, so they are ready to do anything to manipulate and falsify electoral figures. Another thing is frustration. Some politicians who have lost in elections at many occasions are now frustrated and they may engage in different unlawful means to win the election. Again, we have hidden foreign influence. Some foreign countries are secretly involved in sponsoring some candidates or political parties in other countries. So what are the forms of electoral malpractices? There are many forms of electoral malpractice. What are the various forms of electoral malpractices? There are various forms of electoral malpractice. One, the use of fake ballot papers. Some politicians who are very desperate, seeking for power, can go as far as printing fake ballot papers. Again, underage voting. This is very common in Nigeria, where persons who are less than 18 years vote during elections so as to manipulate the process. There is bribery. Some politicians bribe candidates and even some politicians bribe electoral officials and even electorates just to buy the votes. Again, we have artificial scarcity of electoral materials. Some electoral materials are made scarce in areas where the opponents may have popular votes. Again, the use of thugs. You can see the picture showing thugs during election. So, in Nigeria, some politicians depend so much in the use of thugs to intimidate their political opponents. They depend on thugs to intimidate opponents. We also have fake manifestos. Manifestos are the program of a political party, what they intend doing. It defines what they intend to do for the people when they win the election. In an attempt to get more vote during elections, politicians and political parties make unattainable promises to deceive the people. Such promises are fake and nothing but deceit. Again, we also have stealing of electoral materials. During election, some politicians could be so desperate that they will send people to steal electoral materials like the ballot papers and ballot boxes. We have rigging of election results. Even after voting, the results can be manipulated just to undermine the process. Let's look at consequences of electoral malpractice. You can see the picture of soldiers. Electoral malpractice can lead to takeover of the country by military. One of it is political apathy. It can make people to be disinterested in the electoral process, and they will just feel that those that will win will definitely win because the votes will not count. It will enthrone political leaders that are very, very corrupt. Again, it will bring about autocratic leadership. One, there could also be loss of lives and property. Lives and properties of some notable politicians and innocent citizens have been wasted due to imposition of wrong candidates on the people. We have, for example, Operation Wet here during the period of Old Western Region. Again, the military can take over. That is military intervention. Electoral malpractice can also lead to military intervention. They often come into power under the pretense of restoring peace and order. We have international sanctions. Nations can stand the chance of being sanctioned. Nations can be sanctioned if they continue to engage in electoral malpractices when the votes of the people don't count anymore. Now, there are assignments that you need to do. Looking at the assignment, what are the assignments? Define the phrase electoral constituency. Highlight the factors influencing the delimitation of constituency. Define electoral malpractice. And 4, discuss the causes of electoral malpractice. Ensure you do this assignment and study ahead. Until we meet again in our next class, do have a wonderful time to yourself. Goodbye.